Mommy and daddy's divorced, and a divorced mom pretty much got nothing. I'm not going to leave my mom by herself. So I'm going to make sure my mother's taken care of. None of my siblings have helped me take care of my mother to make sure she was okay, except for Tamar. No one said, this is
before Vincent.
Before Vincent. Mommy's car insurance is due. Let's help Toni with mommy car insurance.
When you think about the Braxton family, the first word that comes to mind is talent. But behind the spotlight, behind the Grammy wins, behind the sold-out arenas, there's another word that has haunted the Braxton family for decades: money. Or better yet, the lack of it. And while the world saw Toni Braxton as the glamorous legend, the powerhouse vocalist who gave us Unbreak My Heart and sold over 70 million albums worldwide, the truth is that Toni Braxton was drowning under a financial weight that almost destroyed her life. And who was right there watching it all unfold? Tamar Braxton, her baby sister. The one who, to this day, insists that nobody truly understood just how much her big sister sacrificed, not just for her career, but for the entire Braxton family. Because let's be real, this wasn't just the story of one woman's struggle with the music industry. This was the story of a family that leaned on Toni Braxton until her back broke, and a sister, Tamar Braxton, who finally had to open her mouth and say, enough is enough, from covering their mother's car insurance to putting food on the table. Toni Braxton was expected to be the savior of the Braxton family. And the saddest part? Nobody even blinked when Toni Braxton filed for bankruptcy, not once, but twice. Tamar Braxton has openly admitted that while people may think she was always the wild one, she was also the only sibling who consistently stood up to help Toni Braxton when the financial storm hit. According to Tamar Braxton, none of my siblings helped me take care of my mother except me, nobody.
I was told the devil was breaking up our family, the devil was raging, so it was a bad thing. My sister Tracy is the one who said to me, Toni, you know, when you make it, you can help us come on. So I always tried to abide that, but the responsibility of it is so heavy for me. I feel like I can never live my life, and I never used to say it. I never used to say anything to anybody, but since we've been doing this show, I've been saying.
Toni was paying for everything: car insurance, bills, the house. And when it was too much, I stepped in. Everyone else turned a blind eye. That's not just shade, that's a truth Tamar Braxton has carried for years. Think about that. A mother's car insurance due, bills piling up, and the Grammy Award-winning Toni Braxton, who should have been living like royalty, was scraping money together just to keep her family afloat. And let's not forget, Trina Braxton and Tawanda Braxton were still demanding salaries from Toni Braxton for working with her, while Tamar Braxton did background vocals for free. That right there set the stage for decades of resentment and cracks within the Braxton empire. But let's rewind. To understand why Tamar Braxton feels so strongly about Toni Braxton's struggles, you have to know how this nightmare started. In the 1990s, Toni Braxton was at the peak of her career. Her debut album went diamond. Her follow-up album Secrets gave us one of the biggest singles in history, Unbreak My Heart. She was everywhere: magazines, TV, world tours. Fans thought Toni Braxton was untouchable. But behind the scenes, Toni Braxton was generating more than $170 million for Arista Records, while pocketing almost nothing. Imagine this: 10 million albums sold out concerts across the globe, her face on every magazine cover. And yet, Toni Braxton couldn't even afford to buy her own mother a car without going into debt. How is that possible? Because the record label was bleeding Toni Braxton dry. They made her reimburse them for clothes, for travel, for studio time, for music videos. Everything that should have been an investment in her career became a debt she owed. And when the dust settled, Toni Braxton claimed she earned less than $2,000 in royalties. Less than $2,000. Tamar Braxton has said it time and time again: people judged Toni Braxton's bankruptcies without ever knowing the full picture. The truth was, the music industry chewed Toni Braxton up and spit her out. And instead of her family shielding her, they leaned on her harder. Tracy Braxton once admitted that she told Toni, when you make it, you can help us. And Toni Braxton, trying to live up to that, became the family's unofficial bank. But no bank can stay open forever without breaking down, and break down she did. In 1998, Toni Braxton filed her first bankruptcy. To the outside world, it was shocking. How could one of the most successful singers of the decade be broke? But to Tamar Braxton, it wasn't surprising at all. She knew how much Toni Braxton was covering, not just her own expenses, but the family's too. She knew the contracts were unfair. She knew Toni Braxton was being exploited. Tamar Braxton has always said the pressure on Toni was so heavy it drained the life out of her. And when you look back, you can see it. The exhaustion in Toni Braxton's eyes. The way she carried herself on Braxton family values. That wasn't just TV drama. That was decades of financial pain finally spilling over, but it didn't stop there. Because bankruptcy isn't just paperwork, it's humiliation. It's headlines. It's whispers. It's the stigma of being labeled irresponsible when in reality, you were robbed. Toni Braxton even faced accusations of fraud when she transferred $53.00 to her then-husband Kerry Lewis, which creditors claimed was an attempt to hide money. Tamar Braxton knew the truth. Toni Braxton wasn't scheming. She was drowning. And here's the kicker, while all this was happening, Tamar Braxton never asked to be paid. She sang, she helped with bills, she stood by Toni Braxton. Meanwhile, her other sisters were still demanding checks. This is where Tamar's frustration comes in, and this is why she's been so vocal now. To Tamar Braxton, it wasn't just about the bankruptcies, it was about a family dynamic that allowed Toni Braxton to carry all the weight while others looked away. By the time the world caught wind of Toni Braxton's second bankruptcy, the situation had only gotten worse. Lupus, microvascular angina, canceled shows, IRS liens. The disease itself nearly killed her, but what killed her spirit was that even in her darkest hour, the pressure to take care of everyone else never stopped. And who was there, quietly trying to ease the burden? Tamar Braxton. So when Tamar Braxton says she feels sorry for her sister, it's not pity. It's recognition. It's acknowledgement of years of sacrifice. And maybe, just maybe, it's Tamar's way of saying to the world, don't you dare reduce Toni Braxton's story to gossip. Don't you dare mock her bankruptcies when you don't know what she carried. But here's the twist, as much as Tamar Braxton defended her, the streets have been buzzing with a different story. A story that suggests maybe Toni Braxton's survival instincts went a step too far. A story that whispers, did Toni Braxton marry Birdman for money? Now that's where things get messy. Because we're not just talking about one bankruptcy, we're talking about two. We're not just talking about IRS liens, we're talking about millions lost to record labels. And right when it seemed like Toni Braxton could never catch a break, she tied herself to one of hip-hop's richest moguls, Birdman, only to separate 2 days later. Coincidence? Or calculated move? That, my friends, is the question that's going to take us deep into part 2. Because if you thought Toni Braxton's first bankruptcy was shocking, wait until you hear what really happened when Birdman entered the picture not long after. Breakup rumors shook the internet. Birdman erased every photo of Toni Braxton from his Instagram and dropped 2 words that sent fans into a frenzy. It's over. Meanwhile, Toni Braxton posed in a glamorous red gown, writing, starting a new chapter isn't always an easy choice, but always choose to be chosen. Cheers to a new year. Too many. That sounded like closure, but then came the twist no one saw coming. Court documents revealed that Toni Braxton and Birdman had secretly tied the knot on August 8, 2024. Just 2 days later, on August 10th, they were already separated. And 2 weeks later, Toni Braxton filed for divorce, calling the marriage irretrievably broken. Think about that. A relationship of 15 years. A man who stood by her through lupus, through IRS battles, through public humiliation. And yet, the marriage lasted only 48 hours. Does that sound like true love? Or desperation? That's why the whispers grew louder. Whispers that Toni Braxton didn't marry Birdman for romance, but for survival. Because by then, the debts were mounting, the health battles were crushing, and the public pressure was relentless. And then came another bombshell. In January 2025, Toni Braxton dismissed the divorce petition. Birdman agreed. Which means, at least on paper, they might still be husband and wife today. Confusing. Yes, suspicious? Absolutely. And that's why fans won't let it go. Did Toni Braxton really marry Birdman for love? Or was it always about money? Look closely at the timeline. 2 bankruptcies, IRS liens, canceled Vegas residencies, a stolen $1 million engagement ring, and finally, a marriage that collapsed in just 2 days. That doesn't look like coincidence. It looks calculated, and who's been hinting at this all along? Tamar Braxton, the one sister who never sugarcoats. Tamar Braxton knows exactly what her big sister carried, and she knows the decisions Toni Braxton made just to survive. While Tamar never pointed fingers outright, her words about pity, about the crushing weight of financial responsibility, told the story without saying it. Told the story without saying it. Because here's the truth, Toni Braxton wasn't just an artist. She was the family's ATM, the provider, the one everyone leaned on. While fans saw a Grammy-winning icon, Tamar Braxton saw the exhaustion, the tears, and the stress that pushed her sister's health to the breaking point. That's why Tamar's revelations sting. They come from family, from blood. And then there's Birdman. To some, he was a savior. To others, an escape plan. Remember the missing ring? The postponed wedding? The cryptic posts? Add to that a 2-day marriage and it's impossible not to ask, was this ever real? Or was it survival disguised as love? Even Tamar Braxton hinted that she understood why her sister might marry for security, rather than romance. She didn't say it outright, but her tone told the world what she couldn't. Because when it comes to Toni Braxton, Tamar walks a fine line, exposing the struggle, but never exposing the shame. And fans aren't blind. They've seen the pattern, the bankruptcies, the tax liens, the sudden marriage, the sudden split, and the mysterious dismissal of the divorce. When you put it all together, it doesn't look like bad luck. It looks like strategy, but here's the tragedy: no matter what the truth is, the weight always lands on Toni Braxton. Whether it was love or money, whether it was real or calculated, the burden of those choices falls on her. And Tamar Braxton knows it. That's why she still says she feels sorry for her sister, because she knows the sacrifices Toni Braxton made, and she knows the world will never give her full credit. So where does that leave us? With questions that may never be answered. Are Toni Braxton and Birdman still quietly married? Did Toni walk into that marriage with her heart, or with her calculator? And is Tamar Braxton revealing these secrets to protect her sister's legacy, or to finally step out of her shadow? One thing is undeniable: this isn't just about bankruptcies or marriages. This is a story of survival. A woman who gave everything to her family and her career, only to be left with nothing. A sister who couldn't stay silent anymore. And a marriage that may have been the most shocking move of all because love or money, fairy tale or transaction. One fact remains: Toni Braxton's life has never been as glamorous as it looked from the outside. And now, thanks to Tamar Braxton, the world finally knows it. So I'll leave you with this: do you believe Toni Braxton married Birdman for love? Or was it always about money? About money?